Donald Trump has arrived at Windsor Castle near London for a royal reception and a day of pomp and pageantry. The US President and First Lady Melania were greeted off the President's helicopter by the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate. President Trump then met the King and Queen before heading into a day of ceremony and banqueting behind the castle walls. Tomorrow, he gets down to business with talks with Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. Straight to Windsor then, we can join our correspondent Charlotte Chelson-Pill. Welcome, Charlotte. Tell us more about what's in store for the President today.
Well, we as viewers on our screens have been getting a sense, a flavour, if you like, of the spectacle that's on display here at Windsor. We've been seeing this carriage procession going through the Windsor Castle estate. Just behind me, the pomp and ceremony that's being laid on to really dazzle this US president. A guard of honour, there's a fly past happening as well. All of that taking part throughout the day, the UK pulling out all stops here. Later on into the evening, we're expecting a lavish banquet. King Charles and President Trump both expected to make speeches there. So it's a huge day here in Windsor. This is really the moment to dazzle, as I say, the US president. Then tomorrow it's down to business. The president will be moving from here in Windsor over to the Prime Minister's country retreat, Chequers. That's where you're expecting some partnership deals to be announced and possibly some of the substance behind this trip beyond the flattery to be taking place.
This is not his first state visit. Indeed, it's his second. Why is he getting this honour now?
Yeah, and the word that's being used to describe it as unprecedented, it absolutely is. This is the first time such an honour, such an invitation has been afforded to the US president, something that the president himself has been very keen to highlight on several occasions. Why? Well, I think it's a recognition of the importance to the UK of its relationship with the United States, one that they very much want to maintain throughout the Trump presidency. And they know that in the royal family they have a trump card, so to speak. It's very well documented, the admiration that President Trump has for the royal family and the late Queen as well. That dates back to his mother, who has Scottish roots. Indeed, before he left the United States yesterday, he was talking about what a great friend King Charles was to him. So the UK is really deploying this card to dazzle this president. It knows that while it might be awkward for some, this is something it truly considers to be in the national interest. OK, so pomp and ceremony, but protests in London as well. Tell us more. Yeah, well, as has been the case for every Trump visit to the UK, there have been protests. We got a flavour of that last night here in Windsor when some images of the president and the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein were projected onto the castle just behind me. There were a number of arrests as a result. Going later into the day, more protests are planned in London this afternoon. Protesters expected to march to Parliament. But what really has to be stressed here is that they won't be in the line of vision of the US president. This will be a very contained visit. He will be contained within the grounds of the castle just behind me. And then, as I say, of the Prime Minister's residence tomorrow. So there will be no crossover between the two. And as I'm sure you would expect, security is extremely high on the streets here. Helicopters flying overhead, a strong police presence. They are very keen, the UK very keen to make sure that this visit goes off without a hitch.
Thanks for that, Charlotte. DW correspondent Charlotte Chelson-Pill in Windsor.
Taking place.
Charlotte Chelson-Pill in Windsor. Meanwhile, in London, anti-Trump protests have started. Let's get the latest from our correspondent, Birgit Maass, who is there. Welcome, Birgit. What's going on?
Well, yeah, a rally is just getting underway. There is police here, but nothing compared to the police presence in Windsor, where President Trump actually is right now. We are seeing protesters here, some Palestinian flags, a lot of placards that are protesting racism, anti-racist placards, and the general mood here is that people feel that President Trump should not be welcome to the UK. They feel that his politics are divisive, that they are polarizing, and that he should not be treated like a king in Windsor.
So those protests are going on in London. The president is in Windsor. Tell us more about the security operation there.
The security operation is massive in Windsor. So the police had informed us that practically it's like a ring of steel around Windsor, and particularly obviously around the castle, where President Trump is also really kept inside these castle grounds. He's not meeting any protesters. That's also why these people are here in London. They know that they wouldn't get any close to the president. There were some smaller protests last night, but really this is the big rally, and people want to send a signal that they are not happy about the state visit.
And those protests are coming as UK politics take what some would call a bit of a Trumpian turn. Tell us more about the mood of the country.
Yes, we've seen in the last month the rise of Nigel Farage's new party called Reform. Nigel Farage is very close to Donald Trump. We've seen also anti-immigrant sentiment rising, where there were protests around hotel accommodation for refugees, for migrants. And we had a very big march here on the weekend, organized by Tommy Robinson, who is a Islamophobe, far-right activist who spent quite some time in and out of jail. But we had over 100 people joining a protest march here, with Elon Musk also sending a message via video link. And I think the people that are congregating here in London are also some sort of answer, some sort of counter-protest to these far-right movements and far-right demonstrations that we have seen in the last weeks and months.
Thanks for that, Birgit. DW correspondent Birgit Maass in London. So let's see what the two sides want to get out of this meeting. Michael Martins is an Associate Fellow at the British Foreign Policy Group. That's an independent, non-partisan think tank. He joins us from London. Welcome to DW. Donald Trump receiving an unprecedented second state visit. What does Britain hope to achieve with all this pageantry?
Well, I think originally the invitation for the state visit came when Prime Minister Starmer was trying to convince President Trump to be more supportive of Ukraine in the war against Russia. That is obviously still a big feature. I think now as well, there are different elements. I think they're going to be trying to move on from last week's resignation of their ambassador to the U.S., Peter Mandelson, and focus more on the future. And that will probably look like building on the trade agreement that they recently signed with the U.S., as well as trying to continue to garner American support for Ukraine, but also I think maybe pushing President Trump to support other international endeavors like AUKUS, for example.
Okay, but all of that sounds like the normal business of intergovernmental exchange. Why all this for that?
I think, well, President Trump likes the optics. He likes the pomp and circumstance and ceremony of it all. And I think, Starmer and his team acknowledged that, accepted it, and tried to act on it because, at a certain point, the UK, outside of the European Union, obviously, is still trying to figure out its role within Europe and within the world more widely. So trying to continue to build upon the relationship it has with the United States. It's one of its key strategic international allies, while also trying to advance its leadership role in Europe, is part of the reason why they offered the state visit in the first place, because, ultimately President Trump wants a lot of ceremony for when he comes here, and this was the opportunity to do that, to give him that unprecedented second state visit.
And is that all he gets out of it? A lot of fawning and grovelling and trumpets, or does he actually want more from this?
I think it's both, right? I think for aside from maybe the ego element of coming in and being the subject of the state visit, he's also able to take all of this imagery and relay it to his political base, his political supporters back in the U.S. that can see him, on a big international stage, seeming very presidential and statesmanlike. So there's that element. I also think on the on the official side, the bilateral relationship between the U.S. and the U.K. There are things that President Trump and his team are going to be coming here to press the case for, whether that be like furthering the trade agreement that was initially agreed between the two countries a few months ago, or making it so that trying to pressure, as you saw earlier today, the UK to lead other European allies in sanctioning other countries that are taking energy exports from Russia, for example.
So there are the trade agreements which you mentioned, but also there are a number of tech deals due to be signed today. Tell us about those.
Sure. So, ahead of the state visit, there were a series of announcements of different business deals that were signed between the U.S. and the U.K. A lot of these surround tech, specifically artificial intelligence and data centers. This, as one of the biggest and strongest parts of the American economy, is it's essentially a way for American businesses to invest to a greater extent in the UK, and at the same time, the British government is trying to increase the profile it has as an investment center. There's going to be issues with it, like for example, a lot of these data centers are reliant on very cheap, accessible energy, which the UK doesn't really have. It's recently decided to essentially shut off energy extraction in the North Sea and import energy now. So there could be some hiccups in the road ahead, but in practice, what they're trying to do is soften the ground and make it so that this is a state visit where the official communiques are about the economics rather than the politics.
Okay, good talking to you. Thanks for joining us. Michael Martins from the British Foreign Policy Group.